The American Midwest is known for its agriculture, friendliness, values, climate, and laid-back culture. With its reputation and historical relevance, the Midwest is shaped by rapid expansion, institutional systems, and at times, unsolved tragedies. The Anoka State Hospital opened in 1900 as a psychiatric institution. Upon opening, the first 100 patients were men. In 1905, the first female patient was admitted, and eventually 50 women would be brought in, with 45 of them living there until they passed away. A photographer from Minneapolis exposed the horrific conditions, such as beds in hallways with no linens, patients with restraints, electroshock therapy, and failed lobotomies. In the 1950s, funds were allocated to improve conditions, but due to the reputation of the hospital, numbers decreased and the last patients were transferred to other hospitals in 1999. Former staff and visitors have described hearing footsteps, laughter, whispers, voices in unoccupied areas, and seeing figures where no one is present and feeling cold spots. The Ashmore Estate has a long history of suffering. Once a poorhouse in the 1850s, and later a private mental institution from 1959 to 1964, many inmates died on the farm, with reports of 32 deaths and burials north of the grounds. Later, a pauper cemetery was created in which 60 to 100 burials occurred. In 1965, the mental institution reopened, but this time as a public institution. By April 1986, it was closed for good. There have been reports of shadowy figures, numerous EVPs, people being pushed and shoved in stairwells, reports of a ghost of a little girl named Margaret, and something more dark and sinister in the boiler room. The Custer House was built in 1873 for General George Custer, but was burnt to the ground during a cold winter. Libby Custer, his wife, designed the new home in 1875. In June of 1876, General Custer died at the Battle of Little Bighorn and did not really get to enjoy his time at his new home. The Custer House is located on the Fort Abraham State Park site in North Dakota and is preserved as part of a military historic site. Cold spots, lights that frequently flicker on and off, doors open and close on their own, and the sound of disembodied voices have all been experienced. Libby's apparition has been spotted wearing a black dress as well. In rural Iowa, the Farrar Schoolhouse stands largely unchanged since its closure in 2001. Built in 1921, the school served its community for decades. Its operational history appears typical. No widely documented incidents of violence or large-scale tragedies. The absence of incidents makes what's followed more difficult to categorize. Visitors describe consistent auditory reports. Footsteps in the hallways, doors moving without visible cause, and strange activity in otherwise empty rooms. There are objects that shift position, knocking in response to questions. Electronic devices behave unpredictably. Franklin Castle is often cited as one of the most haunted residences in the United States. Constructed in the late 19th century, German immigrant Hans Tiedemann purchased the home in 1865 and created what is now known as the Franklin Castle. The home became associated with a series of reported family tragedies. In January 1881, the 15-year-old daughter of the homeowner, Emma, passed away from diabetes. Later that year, Hans's mother, Rebecca, passed away as well. His wife, Louise, passes away, and he remarries later on. Throughout the years, the Tiedemann family buried 3 more children. Accounts from visitors and investigators include unexplained sounds such as disembodied laughter, door movements, and a girl in white is also seen, as well as a lady in black. The Missouri State Penitentiary operated from 1836 to 2004. It is known as the bloodiest 47 acres in America. The prison along the Mississippi River housed 1930s gangsters, MLK Jr.'s assassin, world champion athletes, and activists. Known for lethal gas executions of 40 inmates, its history includes violence, overcrowding, and executions. There are many reports of Fast Jack, who has a clipboard and a white lab coat, and is said to have worked in the medical wing. Fast Jack is said to lock and unlock doors. In the female wing, there are sightings of women dressed in early 1900s clothing, as well as cell doors slamming, the smell of smoke, loud banging noises, and even footsteps. In 1886, the Minnesota state-run school for dependent and neglected children opened in Owatonna. The school was open for nearly 60 years, and during the Great Depression was massively overcrowded. Although the orphanage was a haven for some it became a place of fear. Witnesses describe hearing children laughing, seeing books move, the smell of cigar smoke, and watching the floors warp. Temperature has been known to change, and police have been called despite no one being in the building. The most haunted location is supposedly the 3rd floor. Pactola Reservoir, known as Camp Crook from 1875 to the 1950s, was created with the construction of a dam in the Black Hills. It was an early mining town during the gold rush. As the years had passed, the town became abandoned and then flooded. The only remnants of Pactola are submerged under the lake. Since then, visitors have occasionally described auditory anomalies, distant sounds that resemble voices or structural noise, despite the absence of any nearby activity. In 1984, a man passed away after falling through the ice, and his body was not recovered until the spring. Stories of a fisherman who appear at the Rapid City Creek, then suddenly disappear are common, as are reports of fishing lines being cut and the sounds of ice cracking, no matter the season. The Pfister Hotel opened in 1893 and remains one of Milwaukee's most recognizable landmarks. Over the years, guests, including professional athletes, have reported unusual experiences. Lights flickering, objects shifting position, disembodied voices, and a persistent sensation of being observed. One baseball player reported hearing voices while he was in the shower. Knowing he was alone, he looked into the room and witnessed his phone turned on, playing static, and moved to the ledge of the table. Other guests have reported apparitions and reports that the 2nd floor is haunted. The William A. Irvin ship was the flagship for the U.S. Steel Great Lakes Fleet from 1938 to 1975. It was used to carry iron ore, coal, and passengers through the Great Lakes. It is now a museum ship in Duluth. In 1964, a boiler explosion killed one crew member. During its operational years, crew members occasionally reported the presence of an unidentified individual on board, a figure who is never accounted for. Whitefish Point Lighthouse sits along a stretch of Lake Superior known for shipwrecks. It is the oldest lighthouse in Michigan's Upper Peninsula and was constructed in 1849. Known as the Graveyard of the Great Lakes, or Shipwreck Coast, this 40-mile stretch houses the wrecks of the SS Edmund Fitzgerald as well as many others. Reports from visitors include visual anomalies near the shoreline and unexplained lights over the water. A young Native American girl is seen near the coastline, and a woman in 1890s clothing has been spotted just outside the Lighthouse lamp room, staring out at the lake. Across the Midwest, these locations share a common pattern: documented history, followed by consistent reports of unusual experiences. There is no single explanation that accounts for all of them. Environmental, psychological, unresolved? What is clear is this: these places continue to be experienced, not just remembered. And for those who visit them, the distinction may not always be obvious.